University Heights Recreation Committee. Glad you're here instead of out running around in the great weather, and I won't keep you from seeing the debate. I don't think this is going to last that long. So if we go to the agenda, the first item, a list of recreational activities canceled in 2020. That really, afterwards, that really didn't seem like a really good idea. I don't think it serves any purpose. And what we're doing is we're just going, we will be going through all of these, what we might possibly do. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference what we didn't do or did do last year, I don't think, unless anybody has any objection.
No, I agree.
Okay, all right. So let's see, the list, did all of you get a copy of this list? You did? Okay. Sue, you don't look sure.
Can you resend, or how would that have come? Is it in Dropbox? If it's in Dropbox, I have no idea.
I emailed it to everybody yesterday.
You emailed it? Got it. I'll get it right.
Yeah.
Now, before we get going, I just want to give a little bit of history. I gave Michael a call a while ago and asked for his permission to sit down with Mike Cook and Rachel and go over all the events and activities. And he just handled it himself. He had an internal meeting and came up with this list of items that we may or may not be able to do next year.
No, I didn't realize you wanted to meet with them before.
No, that's all right. Oh, it's no problem. It's no worries. I made it a lot less work for me.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah, no, I thought maybe I'd just meet with them and whatever, but that's fine. You knocked it out and wrote it. And he wrote this up also, by the way. I'm gonna feel silly reading what you wrote, but.
Well, Cook actually wrote it, so.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And
all
he
right.
couldn't be here this evening, but he did prepare the document you're looking at.
Yes, he did. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just read through it. If anybody has anything they want to ask or add as we go through these things, just jump in. Otherwise, this is what we talked about for the parade. It's unlikely we'll be able to do our traditional parade and ceremony due to the COVID-19, but instead of canceling it, we can look at a revised event. The parade can have a longer route, perhaps up to 5 miles, so residents can attend while maintaining social distance.
So it's snake through the city.
Yeah, maybe do a couple of laps.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you talk about routes at all, Michael?
A little bit. Rachel, Mike, and I discussed possibility of beginning and ending at John Carroll and looping basically on all the main and secondary streets. If you're familiar with the Hanukkah parade that goes through several cities, travel with the parade and they block out intersections as it passes through. We could do the same sort of thing here within the city itself and do it on Silsbee, do it on Belvoir, do it on Meadowbrook, Cedar and Warrensville and Green. We can hit all the main streets, and then in doing so, people can really spread out. We're not having the entirety of town coming up to the same 1 mile stretch.
Right, all being on Silsbee and Belvoir.
Right, but at the same time, you don't want people on foot because you want to keep it moving. I mean, if the parade travels at 5 mile an hour, then a 5 mile route would take an hour. And our parade takes longer than an hour already. So it's not such a it would be a way we could go about it.
It's just a different route, basically.
Well, no, because it's also a different format. Everybody would.
Well, no, exactly. But I mean, as far as the time it would take.
Right. And
so Michael, did you say people would drive by specific sites so you get to see something or wave? Maybe you could have a band at one location playing as they went by, or stilts at one location. I mean, was that the idea? And I was wondering, we get the people in the city, the businesses, if they want to throw in coupons, could you have giveaway bags for people, like drive by and here's your bag or something, just something more than driving?
Well, I guess we could discuss it. Our thought was to not hand out things because if it's not advisable to have that kind of contact, we were going to say, don't throw candy, don't pass out things. But, we're just speculating what it might be like,
Well, this would be the city. agricultural groups are giving out food, you still pick up your crate of food, and it's just, you would make sure everything was sanitized before you hand it out and inform everyone. I don't know. I love the idea. I think the parade is a cool idea. I'm all for it.
Beechwood, last Sunday, Beechwood did their truck thing, but they did
That's
it
right.
on a
Go home.
regular parade route. People stood outside of their houses and they drove all around.
Or something like that. Yeah, have the people who are in the parade come by us. I don't know. Those are cool ideas. Okay, sorry, I'm done.
No, it's okay.
Gotta jump into the parade committee.
Yeah, and one of the things we'll keep an eye out for is this past year, we watched how the St. Patrick's Day parade was canceled ultimately, and other events were canceled, and we knew that we probably weren't going to do our parade, but the reality is the stuff that gets booked well in advance of the parade are the things that we're least likely to do. We're at least likely to have the petting zoo and the vendors and the food and the stuff at the end, because you probably don't want people congregating like that. So all that really leaves are signing up to do the parade type activities. And as Rachel can tell you, most of that happens in the last 4 to 6 weeks before the parade anyway. Some people get their stuff in early, but there's a whole big rush at the end. And if we are closer to the event, we'll have a better idea of what format the event really can take, be fluid and flexible about it, and then run with it accordingly.
Okay. All right, I guess I'll pick up where I left off.
Okay.
Parade participants can be in vehicles or on floats or bicycles. Candy throwing or distribution of any other items can be banned. Our ceremony is usually at a small area at JCU. We can work with them on an alternate site on campus so people may maintain social distance. We could also hold the ceremony at the Walt. It would most likely be impractical to have our usual assortment of post-ceremony activities, such as inflatables, animals, musicians, and all that stuff. We probably can decide on a parade soon after St. Patrick's Day. We'll keep an eye on what Cleveland does with their parade, and we can see what Sugar Falls does in planning their annual Blossom Time Parade, which is the same weekend as ours. So that's the parade. I think this has got a good chance of working. I really do. When I first thought about all the things that we weren't going to be able to do, the parade was at the top of my list. But those are pretty creative ways of doing it. And for those of us that like riding in parades, it's just that much better. Okay. All right. No comments, additions, deletions.
Well, I do know that you like riding in parades, because when we did our alternate historical parade with all the old photos, we found tons of old photos of you in the parade. I mean, we only used a handful of them, but my goodness, you were well done.
Yeah. Back in the 58 wagons,
Yeah.
back in the day. All right, summer concert series. Even with 1,000 plus for Carlos Jones and the Plus Band in 2019, there was plenty of room at the Walt. With social distancing, we could probably do a summer concert series. We could divide the Walt into 8 or 10 sections and have families sit in different areas. One entrance and a colored wristband system could make this work. We could also ask concert goers to wear masks.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I've said before, I've got issues with my immune system. So, I tend to stay away from stuff like that, but I like the idea of the wristbands for where you're sitting. So you can really sort of dictate, for lack of a better word, how people are distributed throughout the park.
Yeah, it's real doable. I've seen it. They're just like parking spots. They just line them out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is that you? Okay.
That was me, because I was on my phone. I had to shut it off.
Okay. All right. As for food trucks, we would have to come up with a system so that customers maintain social distancing while waiting for their foods. It's unclear at this point which bands will be playing next summer and whether some of the bands survived the pandemic. While Carlos Jones might be back. We might be looking at a series featuring more solo artists or duos or trios instead of a large rock band. We would welcome back the University Heights Symphonic Band, of course. However, as this writing, it is unclear if they'll be playing next summer. They are obviously a large group with several older members. Keep in mind, we have $2,000 grants, a $2,000 grant, or two $2,000 grants that we may use to pay bands from our friends at NOPEC.
Mhm.
Yoga, anything for anybody? Is this, Michael, is this probably the second favorite event that we do all year?
So when you say second favorite, are you asking me if it's my second favorite, or you mean like?
Sure.
I love the music event. I think
Yeah.
that's great, and it's well, we have great turnout for
Yeah.
certain bands, some more than others, but it's popular, and
Yeah,
it's
it's popular. I agree with you, Mayor, because it's popular because, we go to all of them. And there is such a vast cross section of the community there.
Mhm.
There's young families with kids, there's the, more senior members, there's, a bunch of kids that come together. It's pretty much everybody, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a huge upgrade from what we used to do, that Thursday night series. You'd go to those things and you'd see the same 15 people. It's just
Yeah, there
just
were big crowds at some of them last summer, really big.
Yeah, they were big ones.
Yep. Okay. Yoga Tuesday at the Wall. The cost of this is minimal. We would work with Yoga Roots on maintaining social distance between the participants. Family movie night. A movie night seems reasonable and manageable. Like the concert series, we would just need to designate areas so people can spread out.
Right.
We can go with 2 movies, a classic like Raiders of Lost Ark, and a newer one, or 3 movies, as I believe we have done recently as of 2018. Block parties. Barring a drastic change for the better, it does not seem advisable at this point to allow for block parties in 2021. That's a shame. Those are such a
Still doing
traditional.
your neighbor thing? John, are you still doing your neighbor thing?
Yes, they are.
We just got inside from that.
I
Yeah.
drove
They're
by
not
the
giving
other
up.
night and everybody was out and I stopped and waved and chatted. Yeah.
6 feet apart.
That's great. What do? You out? How
It's
often
the
is?
time out together that we're still doing, where
Oh, is that
everybody.
right? Oh, no kidding.
Right now, it's down to like 5 houses.
5 or 6, but I mean, and everybody is socially distanced. Everybody has cocktails. People have their babies and dogs, and it's great.
Yeah. Mine evolved into a bourbon club.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Arts and crafts. We need to discuss with Aaron how this could work. That's pretty touchy-feely. I'd be surprised if we could do something, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we've had arts and crafts before at Purvis, and what we did was Rachel and Mike and I went through last year's summer rec guide and the one from 2 years ago, and we're just looking at the different things that we scheduled for the summer, and that was there, as was Touch a Truck, and so we wrote it down. We talked about it a little bit, and we still would, at some point we still need to sit down with Aaron and with Melissa if. Officially they were laid off earlier this year, and find out if they're interested in coming back and have all those discussions, but if they are, and we liked what they were doing, then that's one of the things we would want to talk about with them.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Field for that, and just have everybody spread out on the field. There's so much room back there.
There really is.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they were doing it before, if they were just doing it in the pavilion or.
Yeah, they were doing it at the pavilion.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, but yeah. All right.
Okay.
And then that,
Go ahead.
with that, oh, go ahead, Phil. It's your
Yeah, I
music.
was just going to keep reading unless you got something to say.
No, go for it.
All right. Okay. All right. Touch a Truck with an emphasis on looking and less emphasis on touching. Possibly happen. Now the pool.
Mm-hmm.
We've studied how Rocky River ran their pool in 2020. and perhaps their experience is a roadmap to how we may safely open our pool in 21. Rocky River allowed for online reservations for specific timed sessions. Residents would be permitted to reserve one session at a time. The pool would be cleared after each session, allowing for cleaning and sanitation. Use of the pool could be limited to open swim. We could consider not having swim lessons, swim teams, etc. Adult lap swim and single gender swims would be continued. We could see collaboration with a neighboring city. I'm not sure what you had in mind with that.
Well, we were just brainstorming. You know, Rachel brought up the idea that that we could work with Beechwood with regard to the men's night and the women's night, and see if there was some sort of coordinating we wanted to do there. We wanted to at least broach them about it. We broached Cleveland Heights about it a couple of years ago, and it never really amounted to anything. But those are things we could at least, you know, discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that Mayfield Heights had a very successful pool season last year also. You might want to look into that.
Okay.
The one thing with the pool that we really need to discuss, and I know there's an attachment, you know, there's another spreadsheet with this list, is that we can't continue to lose $250,000 on the pool. I mean, this was like a year and a half or 2 years ago already. I spoke to a bunch of cities. They all lose between 30 and 50. So we know it's going to lose money.
It's
But we
never a
can't-
moneymaker, but
No,
not
but we
to,
can't afford $250,000 is like, I mean, that's literally, that's fiscally irresponsible for us to do. So
Can I ask you a question before we get into the money part? When you have observed, Mayor, and thought about opening up the pool in the summer in sessions, like I believe it was 1 hour sessions, how many people are you anticipating going in at one time? How
Not
many
sure yet.
go in?
Not sure yet. I mean, Rocky River did have a number that they capped it at, but yeah, I don't have a number yet. But that's something I think that we'd have to
do you
discuss.
remember what Rocky River did?
I think it's in their proposal, but also their facilities are different than ours, so it may not be, you know, apples to apples here.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the size of the facility and how many people you can put in the water, and spacing of people and spacing people on the deck, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Is it, I thought I had read somewhere, and of course, everything changes all the time, but if they're actually in the water, the chlorinated water, that's not really a contagion location, even if they're around each other.
But you're still breathing on each
Get
other.
out. Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Chlorine and the effect of everything around, I don't know, and are you going to expect lifeguards if you're going to separate people in the pool who aren't family members, is this something lifeguards are going to be expected to blow the whistle on or get in between? How's that going to work?
Pools make me nervous during this, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, well, that's
What has the state's guidance been on this?
Whose guidance? State guidance?
The state, didn't they release a guidance on the pools?
They
They
did.
did.
last year they did.
I mean, I
And
don't
then
know.
is it like a capacity that they're targeting? I mean, is it, you know, I went to Cedar Point this year and I think it was like quarter capacity or whatever it was. There was like hardly anybody there.
Well, the thing you have to think about too is, I mean, aside from the fact that, you know, kids are not going to social distance in the pool, but God forbid you have an emergency take place. I mean, the lifeguards really can't do what they would normally do. You're putting them at risk.
They would have to do CPR if they had to.
Right, right. I mean, you're putting them at risk.
Well, if
Possibly.
what John is saying is right and it's a quarter capacity, there's no way we can open that pool. We can't afford that.
No.
It's
Well,
one
I
of
don't
the-
know what the capacity of the pool is now, but whenever I've been there, it doesn't seem packed.
Well, it does depend on when you go. If you're there on a hot Saturday afternoon, or a hot weekend, you know, afternoon, it gets pretty full. But how many hundreds of people is that? I don't know offhand. Jeff, do you have any insight on that?
I really don't, but we have some numbers that we could look up to determine what we were at full capacity. There were a few days in the summer, not last year, but this past year, but the year before. So we could probably come up with a number. And I would say that even a quarter of that would still be quite a few people. And I'm not sure that that's an actual number, the quarter number. I don't believe that we have to go to a quarter. We may be able to do half. It's just, again, a matter of distancing and what we have space for.
Mhm.
And how do you enforce social distancing with a bunch of kids at a pool?
Well, the kids would be probably more difficult than the adults, but obviously you'd be spacing chairs, you'd be spacing tables and umbrellas and things like that where people would be able to sit. And yes, the lifeguards and the pool staff, the managers would have to enforce it to some degree that you're not allowed to move these things to make bigger groups. Enforcing people in the pool, I mean, they do that all the time right now, whistling at kids that are playing that aren't playing appropriately. So they'd be whistling at them to say, you know, that's enough, spread out.
Mhm. And just as always, if people can't follow the rules, they won't be allowed to use the pool.
We always have that option.
Jeff, it sounds like you're okay with opening the pool.
I think it can be done. Other cities did it this year in what was even worse conditions. I think as you see next year, I think you're going to see more public pools open. There are state guidelines, things that are mandatory, things that are recommended best practice. And we may have to work at it a little bit to get the right equipment and the right sanitizing equipment, but I think it can be done.
I don't think I heard about any of the pools that were open last year becoming hotspots. I didn't hear about, I don't think I heard anything about pools being a problem at all.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I'm not
Chlorine does
aware.
not.
Mhm.
I was just going to say, I heard a study, chlorine does not carry the virus. It can't sustain it.
I have a friend whose daughter is a lifeguard, and they worked this summer, and all the lifeguards on one shift got it.
Yeah.
So it was raining, and they were all like social distancing, but on the cement floor and sitting down,
Right.
and all got it.
It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
We
What
don't
do you?
have to decide tonight. This is just a
Right.
discussion about how
Right.
it might look like. And last year 44118 was such a leading hotspot that I dismissed it out of hand. But it could be different next year, which is why we want to at least have a plan on the shelf that we can
Mhm.
use if conditions allow. And we know that we can just open up and do what we've always done. We know that we can close it if conditions require it. But what's the third way? And the third way is what we're discussing.
I like having a plan. I think that's great.
Jeff, we're going to have our first budget meeting and at the beginning of December. Is there a way you can maybe get together with Dennis and do, a very rough estimate P&L on how much more all those sanitization equipment and supplies are going to cost and what it will take for us not to lose that exorbitant amount of money?
Well, if I can jump in here, Jeff will point out that we replaced a sand filter last year. That's a once every 5-year proposition. I believe last year's the year we bought a new commercial freezer for the concession area because we had one freezer break and one freezer, we switched ice cream vendors, and it turned out the other freezer was their freezer that they provided to us. So there were
that profit and loss statement would be without any major new capital expenses. It would just be regular operating costs.
Right. And what if we had to spend anything with regard to additional sanitizing, like he said, additional sanitizing equipment and supplies with regard to COVID?
Yeah, I'm talking about the numbers that Dennis distributed already that total that amount. There are things that are factored in there that were miscellaneous one-time expenses.
Okay, so if we could just see an updated new one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I perused that Rocky River plan, I think it was. And they mentioned a few things that I'm curious about. They had a term in there for a group of people called high-risk populations. Do you have any idea what that might be?
What was it again?
High
High-risk
risk
populations.
That probably,
adult,
Seniors.
elderly,
Yeah,
elderly?
I would suppose, but I don't know. We'd have to contact them for sure.
Okay, I was just curious about that. And would we be using the slide?
You know, that's another question. It's an option.
Okay, all right.
You know,
And,
it's a matter of whether we could sanitize it on a regular basis.
mhm,
And that would have to be kind of a discussion with the pool staff and what they
Yeah.
feel is safe. Again,
Okay.
we've modified that from time to time, even during a regular operating year. If for some reason we didn't have enough staff to watch the slide, we would close it. So if we
Okay.
can't sanitize it in this case, I'd say we'd probably close it.
Do you think we'll have concessions if we open?
We always have. I don't know why we wouldn't. Again, the pool is inspected by the County Board of Health for both concessions and pool operations. They come in several times during the year, test our water, test other things, and they do the same for the concession stand and give us a food license. So there wouldn't be any reason why we couldn't do that as long as we did it safely.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? I've got another question. Will we be doing tennis?
Wait, Sue has a question.
Oh, sorry. Sue.
Sue, you're me.
I just pulled up the Rocky River too, and their high-risk populations are elderly and people with pre-existing conditions.
Okay, great. Okay. So tennis, will we have tennis?
We currently have tennis today. We did have tennis this past summer. I think things went pretty well. I monitored it. We didn't have any problems. We sanitized it occasionally as we did the playground equipment. So I would say yes, we would have tennis unless something changed.
I see people on the tennis courts now all the time, like recently, and on the playgrounds.
Yeah.
Say again?
That's like the safest sport.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, all right. Unless somebody has another idea for brainstorming here, I'm curious to know, Michael, because you are kind of like you have your hand on the pulse of what's going on there. What time of the year should we get back and talk about the reformulated parade and pool and all that? I mean, St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, that's probably a good time. You know, if we're looking at this stuff in March, that's a good time with respect to seeing where we are. You know, what Cleveland is doing with its major parade that is a good month and a half to 4 hours, and yeah, we could aim for early to mid March.
Will that leave enough room, time-wise, to get everything else done that's being done? Like, I don't know how soon you got to book bands and that sort of thing, but will that give you enough time?
I think so. I mean, traditionally we start booking bands usually in January.
Yeah.
But that I don't know that we would do that this time, or maybe we would start talking in preliminary terms. But I think everybody would understand that any bookings are conditioned upon whether it's advisable to actually proceed.
Yeah, because you don't know what conditions will be when that date actually arrives.
Right.
Would you have to start heating water or anything in the pool by then?
No.
I think this past year we had some discussions about how long it takes. Something like 30 days, we would be
Okay.
able to get the pool started, filled, and chlorinated, ready to go.
Okay, probably wouldn't happen like June.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning that Jeff and Aaron worked on plans where last year, if the pool were to open late, at what point could we still open the pool, and at what date would we have to make the decision to open it by a particular date? And Aaron worked with Jeff with regard to what had to be done physically at the pool to prep the pool itself as a facility. And then Aaron also combined that with, hiring the people needed to be there. So 30 days, I think, was it. We have that schedule. I believe
One comment I want to make about that, and this is just a personal opinion, but opening up the pool late,
Mhm.
the cost is going to be the same, but there's going to be a lot of people who choose not to get a pass for a full year. I just see the deficit growing, the pool deficit more substantially. To me, it doesn't make sense to only do it for a partial summer.
Well, certain expenses are the same whether you're open all summer or part of the summer. That's true.
Right?
Also, it may be harder to staff because certain people are going to want summer jobs. And if they're only there for, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks instead of the full 3-4 months,
Right.
that's a disincentive to taking that summer job. I mean,
Mhm.
been a challenge anyway to hire staff that stay the full season.
Yeah.
And there may be parents who say, I'd really prefer you not take that particular job for the summer if you're a lifeguard, just because there's the potential to be exposed to something.
No, that's another factor.
Okay, is that it? So I guess we'll be getting together again sometime around St. Patrick's Day. But if any of you wake up in the middle of the night with a recreational vision, just email. On a serious note, though, I think this stuff is very important in the people in our city. Everybody's cabin crazy, stir crazy.
I love the idea of having the parade route go throughout the city so that
Yeah.
people don't have to cluster. I mean, people
Yeah.
love the parade.
Yep.
It's uplifting. It's, it's the start of summer,
Right.
whatever summer might look like.
I think
Gosh
you're-
knows, we missed it last year.
Mhm.
We missed it. So I think that would be nice to be able to find a way to make it happen in a safe
Mhm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
I have one
Right.
question. Mayor, with that email that you sent, the file of pool fees?
Yeah.
Can somebody send that to me? It will not download on my computer. It will not come up. It will not download. It will not do anything.
All right, I'll
Michelle, would you send it to me?
turn it into a
Yeah,
PDF.
one other thing since you said that, were those fees ever compared to other cities?
I don't know.
We should.
Yeah, we should probably take a look at that.
Okay.
Will you send it to me again, Michelle, as well?
Yeah.
I had a problem as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait.
Oh.
Oh, Michelle, send it to my either work or Gmail, because it's just this Outlook is garbage.
Yeah, me too.
It's not working. Okay.
Phil, I'm disappointed. I thought for sure you would lead this meeting from your treadmill.
I already worked out today.
The chief and
It was an electrical-
Chief Rogers and I got a chuckle out of that evening.
Yeah.
I got my
Well,
watch in the meeting too.
Thank you, Michelle.
all right. Enjoy
Thanks,
the
Phil.
debate.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right. See you
Good
guys.
night.
Have a good evening.
Thanks for being here, Jeff.
No problem.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.